I'm Floyd Norman. I'm a Disney storyteller, animator, and filmmaker.
Okay. Now, Mr. Norman, my first question for you is, what was it about the movie Dumbo that intrigued you as a child?
What was it about the movie Dumbo that intrigued me was the fact that drawings were up on the screen and they were alive. They were moving. And boy, there's nothing cooler than that when you're a little kid, and I was around 5 or 6 years old, and I saw moving drawings on screen. And because I loved to draw as a kid, I loved to draw pictures. But the fact that your drawings could come to life, could move, could walk, could talk, that fascinated me.
Wow. So, how did you come into the company of Mr. Walt Disney and the legendary Nine Old Men?
Well, I grew up in a little town of Santa Barbara, luckily not that far from the Walt Disney Studio, only 90 miles away. So once I graduated from high school, hopped in my car, headed down to Burbank and the Disney Studios. On a Saturday morning, they were nice enough to see me, kind of an unofficial interview. But they didn't hire me, I didn't get a job, but I did get some good advice.
Okay.
They told me to go to school.
Okay. So now you've worked on some of the most popular movies ever. I mean, Mary Poppins, Jungle Book, etc. What was that like for you as a kid? You dreamed about doing this, and now you had the opportunity to do it. What was that like for you working on those?
Well, what was it like to work on Disney classics? It was an amazing opportunity for a kid to realize his dream. All I wanted was to be an artist at the Disney Studio. And it didn't even matter what job it was. The lowest job was good enough for me. As a matter of fact, that job was called Apprentice In-Betweener, where you did the fill-in drawings on the animated scenes. And that wasn't a very impressive job, but to me, I just wanted to get a foot in the door.
Right.
And so luckily, things began to change for me. After I'd been there for about 10 years, Walt Disney invited me to be part of his story department. And that was a very big deal indeed.
Okay. And tell the people, you left one of the biggest companies in the world, which is Disney, to become the co-founder of an all-black animation company. What's the name of it, and what was that like?
Yeah, a lot of people thought it was strange that I would leave Disney and found my own company. But after being at the Walt Disney Studio for 10 years, for a decade, and having a really great job in Walt Disney Story Department, I decided, along with my co-founders, to launch our own production company, Vignette Films Incorporated. And we just wanted to make movies. We just wanted to tell stories. And our foot in the door was Black history films. That's how we began our journey. But we wanted to do motion pictures. We just wanted to tell stories any way we could.
Okay, cool. And can you tell us a little bit about some of these different things that your company created, things that we all know, like the funky choo-choo train at the beginning of the Soul Train, and Fat Albert and Scooby-Doo and Hanna-Barbera and Mouse House and Toy Story 2, all of these things that you guys were privy to working on. How was that?
Well, what's it like to work on a number of exciting projects when you run your own company? I honestly can't remember all the jobs we did. Kids come up to me and tell me what I've done because I can't remember. I mean, everything from the titles we did for Laugh-In and the Soul Train locomotive, the work on the Bill Cosby, Fat Albert. We developed Fat Albert for television for NBC. So many things. Training films for the United States Navy. We taught Navy pilots how to refuel their jet planes in flight. We did nursery stories for little kids. We did practically everything. Anytime there was a story that needed to be told, we were there to do it, no matter what that story happened to be.
I'm really enjoying this interview. You can see the big smile on my face because it's just so enlightening to me. And let me ask you this. You were forced to retire. What was that like?
Retirement. Well, I was forced to retire at the age of 65. Now, that was not an official age because no company is going to admit to that because, I'm not quite sure why they want to kind of gloss over this. But I wasn't just the only one who turned 65 and was asked to say goodbye. This happens a lot, and not just at one particular company, but I know it happens across corporate America. Older workers have to give way to younger workers. This is just part of doing business. It's probably in many ways good economics. It's probably good for the corporation to replace older workers who are more expensive with younger workers who are less expensive. But, you know, and a lot of people take this and they go off and they retire and they go travel the world or play golf or whatever, but I didn't want to retire.
Right.
I wanted to continue working, so I never stopped working. And I always found a way to come back to work, no matter what that job happened to be.
Okay. Last thing, I got to ask you these questions. Okay. What I'm going to ask you, I'm going to give you a series of things like in pairs, and tell me which one you relate to or which one you like the best.
Okay.
I know you're an animator, so I had to ask you this first one. So just give them to me as I give them to you. Horror or comedies?
I'm a comedy man. Number one, I just loved funny stuff. You know, being a cartoonist, comedy is always number one. I don't mind horror films because in their own way they're funny too.
Okay. Mary Poppins or Soul Train?
Mary Poppins or Soul Train?
Which one is more entertaining to you?
Soul Train was pretty entertaining because I don't know if you remember the first season of Soul Train when Don Cornelius used to wear those funky clothes.
I saw clips.
Don Cornelius used to entertain me just by the way he dressed. And he had that really deep voice way down here. Anyway, I loved being on the set when the kids were dancing. And I can't dance. I'll admit that, right? I can't dance at all. Ask my wife. But boy, could those kids dance. And I was happy to be there when they were doing Soul Train in Los Angeles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fat Albert or Scooby-Doo?
Hands down, Fat Albert.
Okay.
Hey. No, right. That was a lot of fun. Fat Albert, hands down.
Okay. Pizza or hamburgers?
I love hamburgers.
Okay.
I'm a burger man. I've always loved, especially cheeseburgers.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the last thing, Frosted Flakes or Honey Nut Cheerios?
Boy, now they're getting tougher. I'm gonna go with the Honey Nut Cheerios.
Okay.
Man, that's a tough one.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Norman.